you know?
And that was one of the most important things when I started setting up the space. It's like one of the problems that I still deal with is that the cameras that I use, except for that camera stays, your camera, that stays in the studio. That's like a retired photography camera that I was using when I first started doing the photo video. But that camera is one of my main cameras that I use on jobs. So that's one of the problems that you kind of run into. You run into that issue of like, okay, well, I don't want to, I would like to leave everything here. And that's like the next step. I already know the cameras that I'm going to populate in here, but I would like to populate 3 to 4 cameras that can just sit in one space and like, that's all they do. They just are there and that's their primary function. So this way I don't have to worry about I shot different settings out in the field than I wanted to for the podcast.
Yeah.
Because it's like color temperature, it's the ISO, it's like all of these different settings that are just different based on the location. And here we have all the lights sculpted out already. So you want to just keep it the same every podcast for continuity.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Dude, we should start with problem theory. Are we started? Is this
This is it.
Dude, okay.
I told you, man, this is it.
I'm ready. Let's start with problem theory.
Problem theory.
This is something that
I bring that mic to you. Just bring it into you.
No,
you can bring it to you. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, a little scissor arm.
This is something I feel like I've learned, especially owning a business, is that really your problems in life never go away, ever. Mm-hmm. And I think we were going to start with entrepreneurs, but I really think the whole point is that like everyone has problems in their life. Everyone, right? Yeah. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're not, whether you have a job, whether you're jobless, whatever it is. And I always like the idea that no matter what your problem is in life, it actually will just change. Like your problems never go away. And the whole idea is like when you solve one problem, you actually create new problems. So it's like, it's funny because I come in here, I'm like, this space is incredible. I'm like, I love the walls. I love the cameras. I love the lights. I love the fridge. I love the 3D printer over there. I love the artwork on the wall. And I'm like, I love this stuff. And you're like, but I got to move my camera around, which is funny. But the funny part about it is like one day, right, you'll solve that problem. You'll get your camera in. Mm-hmm. It will be there. And that then creates the space for your brain to discover your next problem, like what it is. So I think one thing that I've learned that I actually really enjoy is that like you have to learn to appreciate your level of problems because everyone has problems, right? And it's like, this is why old people are so grouchy because they've almost run out of problems. So they need to just find.
They're in the end game.
Yeah.
They're in the end game. They're like, well, fuck it.
Oh, my problems are now I can't scratch my butt, like whatever it is. So it's like, whatever problems you have, learning to like kind of enjoy and appreciate what problems you do have. Yeah. Like one of my problems today was being like, all right, am I going to have enough time to like go to the gym, get out, eat, come here, do this, and then, get off to work on my project for my martial arts studio. And like that's one of my problems. So I'm like, it's a great problem. Yeah. It's funny because you still worry and stress the same amount regardless of your problem. You know what I mean? Like it's not like our brains almost don't know the difference between a big problem and a small problem. They're just like stressed. So I always be like, enjoy. I try to tell my wife all the time, enjoy your problems. She hates that, by the way. She doesn't like when I tell her to enjoy her. And no one really does. But I think the older you get, the more you realize that like your problems are just going to keep reoccurring. And you have to learn to just, how you handle them is really how you live your life. If you don't handle problems well, like kind of like we were saying before, like if you have a friend who doesn't handle problems well, they can become very toxic. And then you don't want to spend time with them because they're just like, negative.
Gotta safeguard your own space.
Yeah, like they're like a negative Nancy, and you're like, I don't want to hear all this negative stuff. Yeah. Vice versa, if you have someone who actually handles their problems really well, you're like, oh man, I want to hang out with this person. Like they got great problems, like, oh man, I gotta pay the taxes. That's $50,000 on my new building, and like that's their problems, and you're like, I would kill for your problems.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, they resurface in different areas as you upgrade in life. They just resurface as different things.
Yeah.
One of the things that I say a lot is when I first started doing the production side of things, I couldn't wait until I had a dedicated video camera. And then I got that. And then it's like I couldn't wait until I didn't have to edit in my bedroom anymore and I had an office. And I got that. And then the office was so small because it was a starter office and it was saying $700 a month that I was like, I can't wait until I have a larger office.
Yep.
And it's like, and it's been the same thing with my apartments, just kind of just milestones that you go through in life. I was listening to Alex Hormozy, who I like listening to some of his stuff.
Oh, yeah. I think
he's very cool, very concise, and
excellent speaker.
Right to the point.
I feel like he has such great connectivity with people that when he speaks, you're just like, I get it. I think he's an excellent speaker.
Yeah, he gets right to the point. It's not like a bait and switch. It's just like, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to tell you, and like that's what the video is going to be about, or that's what the podcast is going to be about.
Say?
So I was listening to him, and he was just saying, like, you know, a lot of people wish to be in the next phase, the next step. I can't wait to have the Lamborghini. I can't wait to have this and that. And you forget that the problems that you have now that you're so tied up in mentally that are just weighing you down, those are easy compared to that next level problem. And you have to appreciate like the stages that you get in because, you know, it's like you think back to when we were all younger and like
playing handball
and just hanging out. And we're thinking about all of these things and you forget that you had problems then and you had things that were going wrong on a daily basis or that you were stressed about. Like the $100 AT&T bill that I had back then. I was just like, oh man, well, I got to make sure I get my hours at Best Buy and my $300 car payment. I was like, oh, like that's a lot. And then things have upgraded to like, my car payment now is $600 a month. And you're just kind of, you're not really stressed about it anymore because you're making the money that you need to make to cover that. But you still have like new levels. And it's just, you almost romanticize about the old problems that you had. Like, oh man, I remember when I was in that relationship and the girl was stressing me out and this and that. And I was so stressed at the time, but it's nothing compared to like what I had to deal with as a married man. It's just.
But we all want to go back, right? Like,
oh, I romanticize about the thought of going back to high school.
Oh my God.
I hated high school when I was there.
So my wife, Allie, told me the other day, she's like, she said she saw something, I'm sure it was TikTok, Instagram.
I'm listening. I'm just going to check something.
Yeah, that we were supposed to, that'd make more sense if we lived our life in reverse, right? So in reverse would be like you're born and you wake up in, a retirement home. So you're in a retirement home and people are taking care of you and they're wiping your butt and you can't really walk.
Fuck.
Take me out. You don't know anything. You're just
take me out.
No, but you're in a retirement home,
yeah.
Right? And then you actually go backwards. So then, in a few years, you actually start getting healthier that you make your way out of the retirement home. And then you actually, you're retired though. So now you get to go and do all these things. And then, eventually you go back to work as you get younger because you're feeling better and better in shape. And then you work your way down, you do all these things. And then you become a teenager. You get to go back to high school, but you have the brain you have as an old person. And you get to relive high school, then you go to middle school, then you go to elementary school, you get to do all these things, your body feels amazing, and then you go all the way back down, to the end, and the end is an orgasm, right? So she told me this, and I was like, that sounds pretty great. Like, you die and it's an orgasm. Like
it's a reverse Benjamin Button.
Exactly.
The reverse Benjamin Button.
Oh, you should coin that. That's a good one.
The reverse Benjamin Button.
So.
We always want to think about like, if I knew to buy Bitcoin back instead of buying an Xbox game, you jerk around like that. You're like, wow, fuck, that'd been awesome.
Exactly.
You always wish you had the knowledge that you have later in life in the earlier stages. But I guess that goes to think about we wouldn't have the knowledge that we had in the later life. We didn't have the experiences that brought us there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, dude, dead ass, I would not be dead ass, by the way. That's a retro throwback. I would not be sitting here right now talking to you if my path didn't lead me down this way. So like joining Bevs in 2011, 2011, 2010, I joined Bevs, joining there, becoming very interested in the bodybuilding and fitness world. Then the breakup that I went through. And then she didn't want me competing as a bodybuilder. She's like, I don't want girls looking at you that way. And then once we broke up, I said, guess I'm going to compete as a bodybuilder because I'll show her like bullshit. Awesome. But then getting into the competitor mindset. And then over the next 4 to 5 years, just kind of being in the industry, meeting a lot of big name people in it. And then going, I would like to buy a camera and like start documenting some of the stuff that I'm around these people and this and that. And then that never turned into the YouTube series that I wanted it to. Like that's how all of this came about. I didn't have any ambition to have a video career. Yeah. I wanted to make YouTube videos. I wanted to I'm around Kai Green. I'm around all these different people that people wait hours in line to shake a hand. I'm around these people all day, and we're friends. So what if I could just document and show and like put up questions like, hey, you have a question for Kai. You have a question for this person. Why don't we, let's facilitate this and make this into something where like I'm kind of like a middleman, but looked at as, oh, he's around all these people. He knows some shit.
Yeah.
But then all the supplement companies and the athletes started hiring me for jobs. And that's how it kind of got here. And then like you were asking before, how long have I been doing the podcast? And podcast with my buddy John, podcast with my buddy Tyler at the time, like all these things. And then it's creating the solo podcast where I can have reoccurring guests. I can have people that have never been on before, and we can just sit down, shoot the shit.
Oh, go through.
But so it's like if that initial going to Bev's and joining never happened.
Yeah, the domino effect.
Who's to say that any of this would have happened? It's just kind of crazy when you think about it in like relation to every step that I've taken, positive, negative, has brought, and same with you. Yeah. Every step that you've taken has brought us both to this point in time of sitting and talking to each other.
I love that. I actually even love the fact that sometimes, if you're in such the same routine, you see the same stuff, you do the same things every day, you get a little bored. It's like...
You like forget though. Your brain like wipes out your memory of like, it's like, what did I do last week? It's like, oh, well, it was the routine, so I forget, it was like...
Even just being like, all right, where's this building? Where am I going? What's this brick wall? What? Knock at this door, open this... Going somewhere new is just such a great thing, especially for me. I like exploring. I like finding different places. I like doing different things. I like different exposures. I liked how you said, because I feel like you made such a good business point, but I don't think you meant to, but you really did.
Probably not.
Where like, where like you were like, my vision was this, but the reality was this.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's so much of what happens, when you own a business, which I think at some point should explain what I do. But anyway, so, people think, oh, I'm going to start a business and everyone's going to buy this and this is how it's going to go. And then you start the business and you realize, they don't buy what I want them to buy. They buy what they want to buy.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I think you have a great product. I think this is awesome. I love the fact that you are just such an easy guy to talk to. You're so personable. We came in here, we would even start filming and we're just like, like talking over and over again. And I'm like, man, like, this is what you're meant to do,
Thank you.
So I should say what I do. So I own a martial arts studio. It's called Bustos Martial Arts. And I started when I was 7 years old. I'll be 38 next month. So 30 plus years on the mats. It's like my thing.
It's sick.
And I've always...
A lot of dedication.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to remember this book, but it was the guy who wrote Dilbert wrote this book. And
Dilbert?
You wrote Dilbert the comics, right?
I'll look it up.
He wrote this book, and I really enjoyed it. And one thing he said is if you have a bunch of different skills and you put them together, that's what makes you like this unique success. So he had...
Scott Adams.
Do you know what book it is?
No. Never seen it.
Look up the Scott Adams book. It was a great book.
I see Dilbert.
No, write Scott Adams' book. I'm sure.
Oh, here we go. Books. The Dilbert Principle?
Nope.
Thriving. Is that the one?
Nope.
They're not showing me. Thriving and something.
No.
How to fail at almost everything and still win big.
That is it. It was a great book. And one thing I liked was he was like, I'm good at comics and I'm good at office jokes. And, let me put them together. And that's how Dilbert was born.
Yeah.
So it's like, I love teaching. Like I never realized how addicted I was to teaching. Like even teachers would tell me when I was in high school, like, you're going to grow up to be a teacher. And I'm like, I'm thinking a school teacher. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
But like, I love teaching stuff. It's like, I don't know. It's just my thing. I like teaching and I'm good at it. And then I love martial arts. So when I put my two passions together, I became really successful in it and I love it. It's what I do, all day long. So your passions are like bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I have a lot. That's one of my problems that I've had.
We're going to talk about ADHD.
I have so many.
I definitely want to hit that.
Yeah.
But to stay on topic is like, you're great with people. So what do you call this? Podcasting? What's the general term of it?
Podcasting.
Podcasting.
Yeah. You could call it an interview, but it's not an interview.
Yeah, but like you're good at those things. And when you put them together, it's magic.
Yeah.
That's how I see those things. All right, let's talk about ADHD because literally me and you, I feel like all the business owners I meet have a sense or a version of like where they just need to jump to the next thing. And I always wonder because, I went to Stony Brook for psychology And I would love for someone to do a study of like people's ability or how much ADHD you have and your ability to focus and then to your business. Because I know myself, and you seem very similar to me in the fact that like we see something and like we can't leave it alone. Like we just need to like, I want a 3D printer. Like I want to do this.
My thing now is figuring out the most optimal way to do the live stream. That's my new thing now. And it's been quite the process of like figuring out not only the connections, like I've been mapping out AV wiring. Like I'm on the phone with my buddy last night. We're playing Halo and I'm just kind of like playing, but I'm not because I have my computer next to me and I have diagrams of AV He's like, you playing? I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, I'm getting back. So I just think it runs just in that DNA code of people that are just wired differently. You obsess about things, but in a different way. You obsess about it, not in a negative way. Like it could be perceived as a negative way because you do obsess about it, but it's not luckily and thankfully, it hasn't manifested ever for me in a substance type of I need X amount of caffeine a day, or I need this and that.
I mean, I'm sure for a lot of people it does, and that's dangerous.
It does. It's just manifested into I have something on my mind. I know it would work because it's something that I want. Yeah. So, or it's something that I'm interested in that I have no previous knowledge of, like jujitsu. Yeah. And you just become so infatuated with it that you want to just keep learning and doing it.
So I read something great that made me feel so good, and it said that people who have, ADD or ADHD have what's called the explorer gene. Have you heard of this?
No.
It's really cool. It actually I slept better that night once I heard it. So it was pretty simple. It was basically like if you're that type of person where like I said, I like to enjoy like a new place, like just being somewhere that I felt like I haven't been. I've been to Huntington. We come every Friday. We go to Hatch. We get breakfast here.
Sick.
Come on. But I've never walked up this staircase into this building, into this office.
Yeah, you passed this building probably a million times.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, there's a parking lot back here? Yeah. So the explorer gene is basically saying that people like me and you were the reason that new lands were discovered. So like if we didn't look at something and be like, what's over there? All right, what I found here. What's over there? What's over there? And we didn't explore new lands, we wouldn't, explore the globe. You wouldn't have new places. Yeah. So I'm like, that made me feel pretty good. Like, I'm like, I don't have ADD. I have the explorer gene. I just need to find different stuff, But I think as I get older, you know how people say like you're in tune with yourself?
Yeah. I'm
way more aware of what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are. Like I can tell you right now, I can't. My handwriting's terrible, and my organizational skills such, which AI has helped me so much with. I'll put something in there and it organizes it for me. I used to have a girl who worked for me named Sam who was amazing at taking what I could put on paper and organizing it.
Yeah.
She literally changed my life with how she was just able. And some people are built like that. They could just see things and like put them in order for you. That's not my strength. I used to think I'm just an idiot. Like, oh, I'm just stupid.
It's a different brain. It's a different brain.
Different brain. Because, like...
You have to play into your strengths.
Yeah, sometimes you're a genius in one things, and sometimes you're just an idiot in other stuff.
That's one of the things that has been a problem for me with scaling, because I have certain things that I'm not the best at or most proficient in, and that's where I want to hire people to, like, raise that bar so I can continue doing...
Let's get into it. I'm ready.
So I can just continue to do things on the other side where I'm good at, and that's really where it comes into play. But the problem is just getting to that point where you're ready to onboard and keep it consistent.
I'll tell you a mistake I made that it was dumb, and now when I look back at it, I'm like, oh man, like how did I think this was good? When I was I'm gonna say younger, this is probably 3 or 4 years ago, I was thinking like you. I was like, I want to be able to do so much. I was like, I'll just hire all these people, right, to do these things for me. Like I'll hire someone to get my food, and I'll hire someone to pick up my supplies for work, and I'll hire someone for this. And that was my mindset.
Yeah, delegating out.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to delegate everything so I could just sit and focus on my business and nothing else.
So you're not working in the business, you're working on the business.
Yeah, right?
Buzzwords.
So the funny part about that was what I didn't realize was that it wasn't the amount of time that I needed to spend on my business. And I was actually doing it backwards. People who have their stuff together, people who know how to run their business, do not need to hire people to go grocery shopping. They have enough time to go grocery shopping. They have enough time to go to the gym, get their groceries, to do all these things. And then they understand, all right, these are the magical things that I need to do. And if I do these things, my business will grow and get done. And I was trying to hire before there was really something there. And I did it backwards. I didn't realize I was doing it backwards. I was just like, my brain's like, all right, hire people, have more time, go. It didn't really make sense. Now
it's a lesson. It's a lesson in entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Well, I thought at some stage you think you know it all. And then, now I'm slowly starting to get to that point where it's like, I'm understanding like, I just need to focus for a small amount of time on very important tasks and get them done. And those other tasks that sometimes you think are so important, they're not. You feel like they're important because in your brain, everything's important. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, it's really a bunch of really small tasks that you have to really pinpoint, and get on top of.
Yeah.
That if you do that, your business will grow. Like, even just like your business, like in reality, no one really cares about a majority of all. Like if your plant dies, no one cares. No, they're not gonna be like, oh, this plant dies. I'm not listening anymore. This guy sucks. No one really cares. At the end of the day, the one thing they care about is this. Like, do I listen to this? Is this entertainment? Does this distract me from my everyday life? Am I enjoying this? Am I getting value out of it? When I hear Nick's voice, I'm like, oh man, I connect with this guy. I'm like, I feel good about my day. Like that's kind of what it is. Sometimes I feel like when I listen to audiobooks, it is like my therapy for the day.
Unless you have a bad reader.
But you know what I mean? Like you hear something and it connects and you're just like, oh man, like that feels good. Especially when it connects on a level where you're like something you obsess about or something you think about all day. And then someone says something and you're like, oh man, like Die with Zero. I think I said this before, is a book that I started reading. And I think I started reading it because I was listening to another book and they're like, I learned this from Die with Zero. I was like, what's Die with Zero? Let me listen to it. And it was actually really cool. It was about how basically that to be rich in life, you want to have all these experiences. And kind of Jesse Itzler, I'm not sure if you follow him. He's one of my favorite people. Amazing guy. So he always values experiences. Like you want to have as many experiences.
Over just accumulating items.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because they say like when you're 90, what are you going to have?
Yeah.
What do you have left? The only thing you'll be able to really have is experiences. You're not going to be like, I'm 90, I'm going to go jet skiing. You're 90.
Yeah.
But if you have accumulated all these life experiences, that's what's going to make you the wealthiest at the end of your life. And like, this is just an example of something that I read and I was like it hit me and I was like, this is great. I think the other thing that he said that I really liked was, this is time and money that we were talking about, but about like when you work, you might think, oh, I'm working 5 hours, I'm working 3 hours. But really, he said, you're not working, you're trading your life energy for this. And like that was something that Die with Zero, said, like this was something that changed his life. Oh, this is my life energy. So it's like, what do? You sit down and you exchange life energy with people and people listen to it. And like, that's what you do,
Well, I mean, the main thing I do is the videos. Like that's how I don't make money with the podcast yet. The main thing I do is the video and photo.
I think this is the coolest thing. I'm very envious. I also am a talker.
Yeah. At some point. I mean, listen, I have to explain to a lot of people that want to get into this. I've had plenty of clients that ask me for advice on podcasting and stuff like that. I always use this. So I apologize to anybody that has heard every episode and they listen to it and it's the same thing over and over again. The biggest thing that I give the example of is Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan It took him about 5 to 7 years before he started making money on his podcast. And that's after he was Joe Rogan. He was already Joe Rogan. So he already had a following between the UFC, between his comedy, between Fear Factor, all these different things. And, you look at his progressionary stages of like where the podcast started. Yeah. And it was like this messy room and it was like webcams and shit like that. Oh, yeah. And then it just upgraded to like the next spot. And then it was the studio that everybody knows from California where he started really popping off. And now his studio in Austin that everybody knows the images from there with the sign behind him and everything like that. So, anybody that wants to get into this type of thing and they're expecting it to make them money, you can make money and you can make a lot of money. However, it takes a very long time. And just like anything, if you get a quick hit, it might be gone in a year.
Oh yeah.
Or if you build this at a really substantial, slow, but like steady rate, it could create something that has a much steeper, like a much sturdier foundation. I mean, you look at this, like this Hawk Tua chick, right?
Mm-hmm.
She comes on, she has her 15 seconds of fame because of a little quote that she made on a random street interview.
Okay.
Then she blows up. She's got guest appearances,
Yeah.
her own podcast, which is like top ranked and this and that. And then she has the crypto scam thing that she did, whatever she did, if she knowingly or not. I can't comment on that, however. So she does all that, and now she's back down to like almost ground zero. And now she's like she was gone for a month and a half. And now she's like back on this campaign tour of like, let me try to get back into the limelight. It's just like, see how fast you rise and then you fall just as quickly.
Do you know, oh man, every time you talk, you make my brain just go pop, 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 like all these things. Do you know, have you ever heard the theory that if we took all the money in the world, right, and you just took it all, put it in a pile, and gave everyone a fair amount, like everyone got the same exact amount, we start, boom. They say in 5 years, everyone would be back to exactly where they were.
Oh, you mean like they'd spend all the money?
No, just like, not that they'd spend it all, but like if we took all the money in the world, right, put in one thing, gave everyone an equal amount, and I don't know this for certain. I've heard it. I can't be like, oh, I have factual evidence. But they say 5 years, everyone would be exactly back where they were
Initially,
which is interesting. I don't find it like 100% factually true, but I think there's a lesson behind it, right? That's like, I think money always has to do with your ability to translate worth to other people.
Yeah, value.
You know? Yeah, but break it down even further, right? If there was no such thing as money, right?
Which it technically isn't because it's fake.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't actually mean anything anyway.
I mean? Like if you didn't have, let's say, bank accounts or whatever, and then you had to go out and do all these things, right, and buy stuff and get things, your brain would work totally differently. You'd be like, all right, well, what am I going to give this person so that they give me this back? What am I going to,
You look to barter.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like when I have people who come to me, because, I'll do consulting mainly for people who I know and trust. I rarely would take anyone who I don't know because consulting is very difficult because a lot of times it's more like first you're their therapist and then you teach them about business because there's a lot of people you could teach about business, but if they don't have the right mindset going into it, then it's really difficult to help them, So the first thing that I mainly try to teach people is that like your ability to give people value is what makes you money. That's all it is. I got to bring up my son. So I have an 8-year-old son named Mason, and
shouts to Mason.
Oh, he's the man. He is a little man, and I'll tell you, he's gonna make money when he grows up. And the reason being is that he has such a strong, attractive personality. Like I am sometimes in awe of how well he can like just connect to people and talk to people, and I'm like, he would be able to sell anything. He would be able to convince anyone to buy anything. And he would do it in a way where like, he would never sell someone something that he didn't think they actually needed. He would do it in like,
it's not seedy. It's not like,
very authentic.
Dirtbag salesman.
Exactly. And I mean, 8-year-olds, man, they ask great questions. How do you make money? What do you do here? I want to trade this, and that's really a big part of it is just learning how to give people value. That's all it is. Like, I think sometimes people try to reinvent the wheel. They're like, I'm going to change the world. I want a Jeff Bezos, where it's like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel to be successful. I think sometimes people are more obsessed with being the image of being like, oh man, I'm this huge entrepreneur. I've trained the world. I've changed the world versus just giving people what they naturally, are asking for. Is sometimes the easiest way to really be successful at your business. I love teaching, and that's what I do. And then I study it and learn how to make everything better, and I continually, work on my product. And at the end of the day, money comes in from that. But if I started with the first mindset of like, all right, I want to change everything. No, I just want to help the people that are in front of me. And that's what it is. That's why I believe in this so much, because I'm like, you just do it. You just do it. Yeah. You're like, this is what I do. You never know when it's going to go through.
Well, that's the exciting part and the worrying part because you put in
gotta talk about martial arts because we're literally talking about the same.
We'll talk. Yeah, we'll go on martial arts right after this. So that's like the exciting part and the worrying part, because you have to have the belief in your heart of hearts that it will work out for the best. But if it doesn't, you still had a great ride and had fun doing it and provided value to whoever it was. So the people that got to listen to it, you change. I get messages all the time. I taught them something, or this guest brought so much value because they liked XYZ. That's really what this is all about. I just want to have good conversations with good people and just listen, dude. I've had 3-hour episodes. I never expect anybody to sit there in one go and listen to a 3-hour episode. But like some of my longest episodes are some of my most watched episodes. It was just the craziest thing. I did a 3-hour episode with Andre. Now, Andre's a very big name in the fitness industry. I did a 3-hour episode with him last week. We just riffed for 3 hours, hung out, riffed for 3 hours. That's got almost 400 views now in less than a week. So it's like these things. I posted on Friday. Oh no, Saturday. I'm sorry. So 4 days.
Oh yeah.
So it's like the content game, the game of just like entertainment in a lot of ways as well. It's constantly evolving. The space is very crowded, but like your son, everyone has their unique personalities. And so that's what has to be translated through the camera, through the interviews, through the sit downs, through the extra content. I've been making a push to do other content except for just like the stuff I shoot for my clients. Get back to the basis of why I bought a camera. Yeah. Start documenting. I'm going to be getting ready for the tactical games. So that's cool. the shooting with CrossFit. Like, so I'm gonna be doing that stuff in like Texas, and Boise, Idaho is another one.
Hey, it's life experience.
Exactly. And that's
more value than anything.
I just want to have fun doing shit. Like, I've been getting very into that side of things, and the fitness side has always been like a good part for me. So now it's like you get proficient with the shooting and you're having fun with it. And it's been an awesome new venture that I'm stepping into. So kind of like how we started all this, it's just like the experiences, just consistently being a student and learning.
Oh yeah.
Learning. I know you had mentors on the list of things that you wanted to touch on topic wise, but like learning from other people, paying somebody, whether that's a nominal fee, whatever it might be, paying somebody that has gone through the trenches of where you're looking to go, because it'll cut down your learning process in the time that it'll take you to figure everything out that they already know. They could have just taught you and you would have saved yourself money in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. So sensei, right, is supposed to be like the one who knows the way, right? And I think like everyone needs, and actually if you went to like, China, Japan, I shouldn't mess this up, but let's say you went to China, sensei could be like a guy who's a very skilled mechanic. He's the sensei there. So it's just someone who knows the way. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's so important to have mentors in your life. Like, it's just so helpful. Sometimes, they're just there to be like a post, like security, I have a trainer that I use named Aaron Lauder, and he does calisthenics training. He leaves me the best voice notes ever, and sometimes it's just simple stuff like, you got this, or, hey man, don't worry about the workout. It wasn't your best, but next time you're going to get at it. And like, it's all those little things that help so much. I just think it's so important to have people in your life to kind of like help you along the way. And I think a lot of times people, they overthink this chapter. People want to help you. They want to. Like, when you find someone who's done it before, they're excited to tell you about their story, their journey, how they got there. You have all these fitness guys on there. They all have these great stories. They love sharing them. Who doesn't like telling people about, the things they learned? I think a lot of times not enough people take the time to be like, why don't I reach out to some mentors? I'm not afraid to fail in any way. I actually went on, I don't even know how I got there. I think I went on like a college website because I wanted to find someone to help me with like marketing. And they were former people who were like CEOs or high level at the time of their career. Like, they were marketing CEOs. Then they retired, they become college professors or whatever. And you can reach out to them, and for free, they'll mentor you.
That's cool.
So I actually met one of my mentors for free. Now, I ended up paying him to do my marketing, but he taught me so much about marketing. And like, it literally was because I was like, let me just try. Let me just see. Like, you can't be afraid to fall on your face from time to time. You can't be afraid to just fail. And
because even those failures are the learning experiences.
Yeah. Or even like you said with doing this, you're like, I tried this, didn't work. Try this, didn't work. Try this, didn't work.
Let me tell you something, because you're going to laugh. So doing all the live streaming stuff, figuring it all out. This is a pretty expensive. It's fun and it's just like eye opening on a lot of levels. So like this is a pretty expensive mixer. I bought this mixer when I moved into this office because I wanted something a little bit more robust, something that can stay here and I can just like leave it here. Because of the other mixer that I bought was another very expensive mixer, but it was portable. It was for video.
Okay.
So and sound location sound. So I'm watching literally right before you got here. I swear, watching a video on YouTube. And the guy says, so what you want to do is you want to send the signal out after all the mixing this way. And I went, wait a minute. So I walk over to the mixer. I look. So built into these mixers, there are noise gates, which cut down room noise. There are compressors. There are EQ to make the voices like male EQs, female EQs. If I have a female guest, I'll set it for a female EQ. So this way the high end of her voice doesn't get lost, but a male's voice is deeper in bass. So it.
No, I think I have a pretty high pitched voice.
Nah. You good. Nah, your EQ's male. So basically what happens is I've been sending the signal to my SD card while it's recording before all of those extras are added, thinking that this is I've been editing is the final product of this mixer.
Okay.
And I realized that like, oh no, I have to add it to the end of it. So I've only been recording before all of the effects. Now I put it for this podcast. It's after all the effects. Bro,
we're going to sound the best.
A year and a half, 2 years of sitting in this studio and I just one fucking thing and I just went, what? Are you kidding me?
That's great.
1,200 on a mixer, and I've been doing everything before all the advantages of it. So I literally wrote the comment on there. I went, I have been on my YouTube account too, which has all my podcasts. I'm like, I have been recording all of my podcasts before all the effects. Your video helped me realize that I have to send the signal after.
Oh my God.
I said, dude, you learn something new every day. This is not that I mastered this piece of equipment.
Value, right?
But I'm like, what?
So pumped.
Like, what? This is fucking crazy.
Oh, I love stuff like
so
that.
Yeah, so like, you know, and I thought I had set it up the correct way because there's so many panels and screens and connections that I was like, oh yeah, I got all of it. Nope, didn't have it.
That's great. I feel like this is what you live for, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
it's exciting.
You get excited. Oh,
I haven't been excited. Truthfully, I haven't been excited about something like that since like I first started with the camera, and I was like really learning new stuff every time I picked it up.
Out for when I was here,
I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wait a minute. It was like one of those where you go, wait.
I'm gonna sound great.
Oh, you're gonna sound perfect.
All right, let's
martial arts.
Yeah, wait. Let me see if there's anything we did miss on here. Oh man, there's all right. Let's hit martial arts.
I'm gonna keep you at an hour. Because I know you got a busy schedule.
I got here earlier than I thought. So
okay,
let's see how
we're at 40 minutes right now.
Oh, then we're good. We're good.
Okay.
All right, we'll make it an hour. All right. Let's talk martial arts because it's actually even funny how you know, like your podcast is like your martial art journey.
Yeah.
Right. You know, you got to put in your 5-7 years to get, you know, established, to get started, to really get where you are. And it's funny because we were talking about attrition. I call it attrition, but basically, you know, if someone stops or quits or reasons people don't continue training. And the funny part is every reason someone stops, it has legitimate, you know, reasons. They're not just quitting, you know, just because, but I think one part of it is that every time you want to quit something, you know, and this is obviously different than like, you know, you're trying to quit smoking or quit alcohol or whatever it is, you know, every time you want to quit something, you're basically like fighting yourself. You're fighting your own momentum of like, wow, you know, this is the person I want to be and this is the person I am, you know? So it's like, if in your mind, you're saying to yourself, like, I am a martial artist. I am a black belt. You can't quit who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I am a podcaster. You can't, you know, it's just who you are, you know? So I think a lot of times if you ask me like, well, why do people quit? Yeah, there's a million reasons, of course. You know, I got injured, you know, I'm going to have a kid, we're moving, you know.
Or they didn't even get past the trial class or they got the white belt and then they never got a stripe.
But the whole point is that the excuses are surface. And the reality is it's your identity is what makes you not quit. If it's who you are, it's who you are. So, you know, like, And that's the thing is when I'm training people, a lot of it is me teaching them to be like, confident in themselves. I'm a person who follows through. I'm a person who's committed. I'm a person who, I am a black belt. I am a martial artist. It always starts with the mindset, like who you think you are, because you can't quit who you are. Yeah. So when someone quits, it's really in my head, I'm thinking, man, I didn't really get deep enough to teach them, like, this is who you are. You're a person who strives to succeed and do well, and listen, I feel like anyone who's trained martial arts for a long period of time understands how ingrained it is in them. Like, the point of martial arts, at least to me, is that when you're going through all these stages, it's such a mental battle. You're constantly trying to prove to yourself, like, hey, I can achieve this level. I can achieve this level. And then it's learning that there's going to be times you fail, that you don't do well, that, you don't get to that level. And it doesn't mean it's over. You just keep working at it. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep training. You have to keep trying, because it's going to teach you to not be afraid of failure. It's also going to teach you to be really confident in yourself, so that when you do succeed and you get that confidence, you're like, oh man, there's nothing that's going to stop me. I like that idea that when like other people stop and you keep going, it's like a high wall that they couldn't get over, and eventually you hurdled it and all those people are left in the dust. Stuff like that excites me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to hurdle that next one. If it's hard and people want to quit, that's actually even more of a reason for me to continue.
Yeah.
Because I want to be the anomaly. I want to be the people that people are like, I don't know how he did it. It's not how I did it. It's the fact that I just didn't consider ever quitting. Sometimes, you overhear that adage that like, it could be in martial arts, it could be in business, that sometimes like you look at someone, they're like, they're stupid. Like, how did they do so well? And I think part of that goes to the fact that they never considered that they should stop. They're just like, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, just keep hammering.
Exactly. I started my business when I was 24 years old. One of the things I look back on is I was young enough that I was so stupid to understand what I was doing that I'm like, I'm going to open a karate studio. What's the worst that can happen? I didn't really think about it. I just kind of did it. So it's like, the martial art mindset, at least in my mind, is always so much of just like, you have to identify what kind of person either you want to be, right? Or what kind of person you're going to be, right? And I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but like, you want to keep telling yourself, like, I'm this type of person. Because at the end of the day, once it becomes a part of your identity, it's what you do.
Yeah.
I think have you read Atomic Habits?
No.
Oh, man.
I'm behind on my books with you. Oh. My problem is I keep getting interested in other books, ADHD brain, and I'll read like a chapter, and then I'll see another book that I like, and I'll buy the book, and then I'll read a couple chapters, and I'll be like, well, shit, I got to read that other book.
I'm an audiobook guy, and when I hear stuff, the good thing about being a teacher is when I hear stuff, I teach it. So I constantly get to...
I have both. I do some audiobooks and I do some physical books. The audiobooks are obviously easier because I can walk the dog, I can listen to them, this and that. Okay. I just don't know if it sinks as deep for me.
At night, I get a little distracted, so I don't do it. But when I drive to work, I got like...
It's either a podcast or that or an audiobook.
Here, you want to hear my podcast?
Yeah.
Or my things? I'm going to have to add more. All right, right now I'm working with Die With Zero by Bill Perkins.
Sick.
Great one. My friend recommended this. I really like it. It's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, and it's a hostage negotiator book. And I really do like it because it in my brain, it's a little bit of sales, because it's teaching like pretty much how to win arguments in a way, or, if you're negotiating with a hostage, right? Like you're learning to really empathize with them and to be on their team and things like that. So that's a great book. Gary John Bishop, one of my favorite books. It's called Unfuck Yourself.
Yep, I know that book.
I'm a little obsessed with the accent. I don't know what it is.
I have to hear the audio then.
It's funny because when I listen to a section of his book and then I think about something that he says, in my brain I have the accent. I'm like there.
That was like The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. That's what I hear. That's a great book.
Oh, I got to add it.
The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
All right,
and there's an accent in the book.
That's going to be added.
Yeah.
I haven't read The Diary of a CEO, but someone told me to do it, so it's in my. Is that
the dude that does the podcast too? Is that the same book? Is that the same guy?
Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah, I think so.
And then I got.
He's a British dude too.
I Back Your Time, Dan Martell. Love the guy. Every time I listen to it, I feel great, but I also feel like an idiot because he says great things. Atomic Habits we talked about. Another one, I don't know if a lot of people read this, but I actually really like it. It's called The Psychology of Money.
I have that book.
Great one.
Yep.
The Pivot Year by Brianna West. I really like that one too. Right Thing Right Now is Ryan Holiday. Be Useful, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Guy is just amazing at everything. Hands down one of my idols. Just amazing.
I'll be at the Arnold later this month.
Just amazing.
It's cool. I get to see him every day.
12-Week Year is a great one. Worthy Human. Oh, Don't Believe Everything You Think. Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and It's All Small Stuff. The Comfort Crisis. If you haven't read The Comfort Crisis, I mean,
I know the names of a lot of these books.
They're just, I mean, you know, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. Scott Adams.
I'll put that on my.
Tipping
Is the
Point,
audiobook for that one good?
I mean, I only do audiobook.
But was it good? Was it a bit? Was it a brutal?
No.
Listen, some narrators are brutal.
I feel like you got to get into certain ones. You know, depending on what you're listening to and what you're reading. You know, audiobooks to me are like food, right, for your brain. So like, sometimes you're in the mood for Italian. Sometimes you're in the mood for sushi. So like, I accept, because trust me, I know how you feel, where you're like, you listen to something and then you're like, I don't want to listen to that today. It's too much like brain power. Like if something like The Psychology of Money, oh man, it was a great book, a great read. But there would be some days, especially when you're like, you know, I'm working on a new line of credit, or, you know, I'm working on putting, you know, new windows in this house I bought, and like it's all money, you know, thinking about money all day, and then
just dollars.
You're sitting there thinking about the psychology of money. I'm like, I can't listen to this book right now. Like I got to put on something else.
I gotta just pivot.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta get. So that is there a sushi making book?
Yeah. Sometimes I just got to re-listen to stuff because you miss things. You hear it, but
that was Alive by Peter Attia.
What do you mean?
Alive. That was a book that I had to re-listen to a couple times because it just helps to affirm it into your brain.
What's that saying, that you more often need to be reminded than you need to be told?
Yep.
And it's the same kind of thing. Oh wait, let's see. So I mean,
I got to hit you with a couple.
You got to hit me with martial arts stuff.
Well, I got to hit you with a couple of my books that are in my library right now.
Oh, I'm ready. I'll download them as you say. What was the
Outlive by Peter Attia is great.
What was the first one you just told me to?
The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It's a great book.
I mean, I would love to be the Robin Sharma.
I think so. Yep.
Buy for one credit.
There you go.
Done.
Big Audible.
See, that you got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it. I hate when people say, "Oh yeah, I'll do it. I'll get to it." I'm like, how long does it take?
Yeah.
This is the good and bad. My wife will tell me something, and I immediately go to do it. She's like, "What are you doing?"
Action.
And I'm like, I got to do it. She's like, "No, I was telling you so you remember to do it." I'm like, I'm not going to remember to do it. Either I'm going to do it now or I'm going to forget, and it's not going to be done.
Yep.
And then, yeah, she doesn't usually like that either. All right, give me more. See, all right,
I
downloaded.
The Creative Act by Rick Rubin.
Okay, what's that?
It's Rick Rubin's the producer, like the famous guy in the music industry that produced a lot of the old school hip hop and whatnot. But he's brought a lot of mainstream artists to. I don't know off the top of my head which ones. I think Rundy. I could be wrong. Who did Rick Rubin bring? But it's a great book about It's a very like abstract outlook on life, creativity, how seasons. It's a very interesting book.
I'm in. All right.
Who did
What's
Rick?
It called
Who did Rick Rubin produce?
What's it called? The Creative Act. Rick Rubin.
Yep.
Top hit. Let's see.
Yeah.
See how many stars.
Beastie Boys, Run DMC, Public Enemy, LL Cool J, Adele, Lady Gaga, Kesha.
I think I got one more credit left. You got one more book for me?
A good one. I need to give you a good one. What do you want to know? Do you want knowledge, or do you want knowledge of business and life, or do you want knowledge on health?
I listened to a book on interior design. I listened to a book on storage, because you know what? Sometimes I think people are too obsessed with being like, all right, I'm on real estate, so I'm going to listen to all the books on real estate.
I got it.
But like, what?
I got it for you.
I'm ready.
Digital Minimalism, Kyle Newport.
What's that?
It's about being as minimal as possible in a technologically advanced world where it's everywhere, and how to gain. Guy. He's really prominent in that.
Love it.
It's a great book. I have to reread it because like when I first listened to it and I started applying those lessons, my brain felt clearer. But unfortunately, being an entrepreneur, you slip back into your old ways of like
Gotta reread it.
constantly being on the phone and answering everybody. Like I've turned off a lot of my notifications,
Yeah.
but I still have that unfortunate impulse to like check the phone. I have two phones. I have this phone, and then I have my personal phone, which is just my mom, a couple of my friends, and my cousin, my immediate family. So when I'm checked out and I don't want to have social media or anything like that, there's no social on the other phone. I think it's over there.
I'll tell you.
Oh, it's right there.
I'll tell you something I did that I really liked. Have you ever heard Darren Hardy?
No.
He's he's an excellent speaker. I've been to one of his seminars before, and one thing I think he liked that he said, it was like, if we're playing a football game, right? It's fourth quarter ends and the game's over. Game's over. That's it. So like sometimes you have to treat, your business brain, your entrepreneur brain, whatever you call it, you have to be like, quarter's ended. It's over. It's done. Cut off. Now, I say that, and then we do back into my ways. Yeah. But one thing that I've done that kind of helped me break that cycle a little bit, it sounds weird, but having a little bit of a hobby that kind of distracts your brain. Like, my dad was super handy growing up. And when I say super handy, I'm not saying like, he hung a picture frame. I'm telling like he put a skylight in our house.
That's sick.
And like went to the basement and like drilled into the foundation to find the pipe to put a shower and toilet and sink. And I'm like, Dad, how did you know? Oh, well, it's a straight line from here, Mac, or straight out to the street. I just, jackhammered it and I figured I'd find the pipe. I'm like, do you know what my wife would do to me if I was in the basement of our house? Jackhammering, saying, I think the pipe's here.
It's like Step Brothers. Do I hear a drill? Is that a drill? No, it's my toothbrush.
Oh my! She would have a conniption. Yeah. So my dad was super handy. So one thing that I've done that kind of helped distract myself is I just was like, I'm gonna spend a little time being handy, and just little stuff. Like the other day, I was teaching my son how to spackle a wall. Little difference, nothing crazy.
Yeah, not revolutionary, but enough where as a young man he should know how to do these things.
I'm like, I'm gonna, insulate the garage and sheetrock it, and like call my dad up and stuff like that. And that's actually really helped me kind of turn off stuff. And then believe it or not, when I get back to work, I feel more creative, I feel more energetic. Sometimes when I'm doing things that are mindless, your brain gives you new ideas.
Well, that's why they say go take a walk without headphones, without your phone.
It's so hard.
I know it is. I know. Just go out. The technology brain or thought process in the back of your mind is always like, what if there's an emergency? What if I get a call? And then okay, I'll take it, but I'll put it on do not disturb. And it's just like, it's not the same. Yeah. If you had just went out there and just experienced like the ambient noise, the cars going by, this and that. I'm fortunate where, like, especially when the weather gets nice, living in the village, I walk from the village all the way up to Prime with the dog.
That's awesome.
And then I walk back. It starts to suck when it gets a little too hot for him because he's in Akita.
Yeah.
So it's like he's dying of heat, and he's just like, okay, I can't go that far with you right now.
Yep.
But
you had dogs in the list.
Yeah. He was at the vet this morning, my buddy Mario, and it was a stressful morning for my guy. He has epilepsy.
No.
He has epilepsy, so it's like dealing with that since he was 2. Now I'm dealing with, first off, he's 100 pounds, which his dad was 63 pounds.
Oh, man.
He's big, and he's not fat. So it's like, I even asked my buddy Mario, who's my jiu-jitsu buddy, he's the vet.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, is he fat? And he goes, no, dude, he's lean. He looks great. I was like, okay. He's just growing and growing. But like his new thing is he's on all these meds for the last, year and a half. And he's been doing great, knock on wood. Problem is, like, now I think it's because his weight's increased. He's looking for more food. He's vomiting midday because he's like so empty stomach.
Oh, man.
So it's just like this whole other, like you talk about problems.
Yeah.
It's just this whole other thing because it's stressful. His medicine's every 12 hours. So it already kind of puts bookends of my day. It's like 8 a.m., 8 p.m. It's like you can't really do anything after 8 p.m. because now the dog expects you to be in with him. And then it's like before 8 p.m., you get everything done, but you have to be home by 7:30 to give him the food and his medicine. And it drives you crazy. But it's like, you think on the other hand, and obviously I don't wish this, but you think on the other hand when he's gone. And you're just like, you're relieved in one way, but now you miss your buddy. So you're like, it's like other problems. So it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
You try to remind yourself when you're getting upset in the midst of like having to juggle the dog constantly. You just go, one day you're going to miss him. Just like enjoy.
Yep. You know what? They always say like the secrets to happiness is gratitude.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it. Just being like, grateful with your problem, like
tough pill to swallow. When you have a
Yeah.
sick dog, you're like tough pill to swallow.
one
But
likes
it's
to hear
what if
it
you had a
when
tough
it's happening.
child? Like what if not a tough child? What if you had a sick child? Now that's a whole other tough problem that you got to deal with.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think again, it goes back to, like we said, like how do you deal with these problems? You said exactly what I'm thinking, where you're like, well, what's the other options, right? The other options is you don't have a dog, and you're like, I'd much rather have a sick dog than no dog.
Yeah,
absolutely. And like, I have a 4-year-old golden retriever.
awesome.
She's amazing. Although same thing, she ate something. She eats everything.
Yeah,
Whatever. She ate something, and then she pooped on the kid's air track. Not poop. She like diarrhea.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm like, but then I'm like, you know what?
He did that at 4 a.m. one time.
Great, but great
Yeah.
problems, man.
Yeah.
Like if if you're lucky enough to have some family member in your house pooping anywhere, it's a great problem.
Compared to other problems in the world, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great problem. I would take those problems, all day. Like no one wants your dog to be sick. No one wants your kids pooping on the floor. But at the end of the day, you just got to appreciate those
Where you're
problems.
at.
Yeah, you just got to learn to appreciate it. It's funny. You brought up, or in my head, you brought up two things. There's two things I'm working on. One was we were talking about audiobooks, and I've actually been slacking on audiobooks because I wanted to get my real estate license.
Okay.
One of the inspirations was the fact that you hear these guys who are, 80 years old, they served in the war, they were a lifeguard, they did this, and they have all these things they've done in their life. And I'm like, how do they do that? And then I'm like, they probably just started doing it.
Yeah.
They just started doing it. I used to teach a guy, and he was a skydiving instructor. I'm
Different seasons of life.
yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I just want to get my real estate license. I love learning about just anything. I've bought a commercial building. I've bought in a house. What else could I learn? So actually, I do that now, and I'm loving it. Some chapters are terribly boring, but some things I'm learning and reading. I'm like, this is great. It's awesome. Love it. The other thing that you said, this is my brain going everywhere.
You're good, baby.
Was about enjoying your problems, this and that. Is one of the other things I said to myself is I wanted to write a book. Now I've always said I wanted to write a book. Who doesn't say they don't want to write a book? But what really got me was I probably started writing a book, I don't know, maybe when I was 28, right? So maybe 10 years ago or so. And I finally found, a bunch of chapters of it. And I looked at it and I was like, I still didn't write. I was like mad at myself. Yeah. Like, because this is
that's like the you watch Family Guy?
No, I don't.
That's like Stewie constantly nudging at Brian. He's like, finish that book? Huh? He keeps nudging at him. He's like, come on, huh? You didn't finish that?
That's how it feels.
Yeah.
But, it's hard to not get down on yourself when you don't do things. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure people feel like this, but with other areas of their life. Like, I wanted to, get this car.
I wanted to join that martial arts studio, and I just never had the courage to go inside.
Yeah, or whatever it is. So I'm not sure if there's other people like this. Maybe some people. I'm very motivated by when I get upset. Like, I don't know what it is, but like when someone upsets me, that's when I feel like I do my best work. Like you said with your breakup, like when you're like,
dude,
you can't be a bodybuilder, and then you're just like,
what?
Yes, I can. What? But like,
dude,
you're more motivated by when you're angry.
240 to 150 in a year.
But you did that because,
and I was away at college, bro. Like I think back to that, exactly what you're saying. I think back to that. I'm like,
and you get heated.
How did I do that? I was so dedicated. I just, no one could tell me anything different. Like that was what I needed to do.
So look at our brains jumping everywhere. But so anyway, so I actually was like, I buckled down and I wrote the book. I got 10 pages left, and it's literally called 100 Pages to Happiness. Who knows if it will work? It might not. But the reason I say that is because the theory is that each page is one anecdote, let's call it, of how to become happy. And the one thing I do like about it is the fact that if that page doesn't reflect you, you just flip it and you have
a new one.
99 more different days. And it's funny because there were some days I was having bad days, and I read my own book and I felt so much better. And I was like, wow, this is a good book.
This is a good book.
It's a good book. Yeah. But it's kind of the same thing with your podcast. Like, no one might ever buy my book. Okay, fine. No one buys my book. But like I love writing it. Like I love, especially
And it
when
worked.
it's
And it worked out for you. Like you enjoyed producing it.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And like especially like when you love the process of doing it, and like you have to work on yourself a little bit, and you like get it there. And now I'm at that stage where I'm like, even if no one reads it, my kids will have it. They'll remember it. They'll they'll look back on this. They'll be like, oh yeah, Dad wrote a book. Only 5 people bought it, and 1 was his mom. But you know what?
Yeah, still wrote a book. That's a big Gary Vaynerchuk thing, is enjoying the process. Enjoying the process, which I have to remind myself constantly because the process hasn't always been smooth sailings, but that's also why I got that canvas.
Oh, love it.
Smooth seas, never made a skilled sailor.
I'm a quote geek. I
saw that, and I told my mom, I was like, I got to put that in the office, and she was just like, well, is that wishing that, that could be like double contextual, like I'm like, no, I'm like, Mom, no, that's not what that fucking means. I was like, it means that that's what makes you a skilled person, is dealing with all the adversity that you have to deal with, all the trials and the tough days and all the shit, all the times you didn't want to do the work but you had to put it in anyway. And that's something that I have to constantly remind myself of. It's like you have to fall in love with the process and just enjoy. You have to enjoy the small office while you have it. You have to enjoy the podcast that you had no listeners and then all of a sudden you blew up. And now it's a lot more stress to continually put out content as opposed to like, yeah, I'll get out an episode a week whenever I get it out. Like I'm very relaxed with my schedule. I try to do 1 a week at minimum. I try to do 1 a week. Sometimes I do 2. Sometimes I've done 3, 4. But I always try to just put out 1 a week. But then let's say 5 to 10 years from now, I have a huge following and they're requiring daily podcasts like Joe Rogan does. Oh. That's a new level of stress. Getting a guest for every single time that you want to do an episode, or like, topics. And
I hope I make the cut.
Oh, you always will. Come on, I don't care how big I am, man. I tell people all the time. I've had people I was like, come on the podcast, come hang out. And they just go, well, I'm not famous enough. I go, I don't need famous people. Famous people suck sometimes. Like, I don't need famous people. I just need real-ass people to come hang out and just shoot the shit. Because just like this, we go on 40 different topic sprees because we can. It's not like we need to talk about X, Y, Z. We need to do this.
There's so many nuggets, so many good.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, man.
So it's always a good time, man. So you're just doing the karate right now? Because I know when we linked up last time, you had Get Tanked.
Oh, man. Hit me with the sore spot. So yeah.
I didn't know if it was still around.
Yes. No, actually, listen, that was one of my ventures that I really loved. I was very passionate about it. It's actually a good point. Like we said, I loved it. Didn't mean everyone else was going to be like so into this and stuff like that. And when it was good, it was great. When we did like Flex on the Beach, I had a whole bunch of people doing it, but running the operation was a lot of work. So then after COVID, I just had too many other projects that I really wanted to work on to give my time. I just moved my studio. We were revamping stuff there. One of my other guys, Jesse, opens up another one in Patchogue. We get that going. My kids are getting older, so I want to be around for them more and do stuff. So I actually had some people who they were like, you know what? We want to get this place going.
Acquire the business?
Yeah. So these people in Riverhead bought it kind of by the aquarium.
Okay.
And I help them get it all set up because it's still my baby. You know, I loved it. It was
cool, man.
Fun.
You had fun with it.
It was sick. I mean, I put my heart and soul into it. I mean, I had people come down and, we filmed for it.
Yeah, we did the promo.
I did all these videos for it. I mean, it was.
You did it the right way.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. But unfortunately, there just comes a breaking point where you're just like, okay, I have to move on to some other things. And stuff like that. So, yeah. So, I don't do that now. I guess my main projects I have right now is my martial arts studio, which I'm always right now. I actually have an MMA fighter who's going to come in and help rebuild my jiu-jitsu, like the ground stuff.
Sick.
It's just like a 2-hour Thursday program that we're going to do and just introduce them. We're going to do like that, weapons, tricking, which is like the flips and stuff.
I'll come down for one of them.
Oh, it's good.
I'll come down for one of them.
Yeah. I got a lot of talented students there who want to learn more. So, like, I'm revamping that. I'm sure I'm one of many people, but I formed an LLC because I want to work on creating an Amazon seller account. So I linked in with a new mentor, and listen, it might work out, it might not, but I'm loving the process of doing it with her right now. I'm learning a lot about the process. So that's like my other thing. I actually am looking into buying like a small business. So I'm in the process of I have like 2 businesses that I have to start like vetting and checking out and stuff like that. And I'm very interested in doing that because I used an SBA loan to buy my martial arts studio business. Not my martial arts, my building that I put my martial arts studio in. that was a crazy time in my life, but it was such a high. It was such an experience that I'm like, I'm searching that again. So like, I want to try to buy one of those
with a dopamine hit.
yeah. And then I have a friend who was buying properties down south, so I bought a property. I'm fixing it up.
Doing a lot, man. You got your hands full.
This is my brain. My wife wants to kill me half the time, but like, it's just the process. I'm trying to finish up that book. I'm trying to finish up my real estate course.
What do you got? 10 pages left?
10 pages.
10 pages, bro.
10 pages.
You get that done in a month.
How hard it is to write 10 pages when
I gave you a
my
month.
real estate course, I just extended it 60 days because I didn't finish it. So I'm like, I only got, 4 chapters left of that. It's a 77-hour course. I think I did like 60 hours. So I got like 17 hours left of that. I still got to run my studio. I'm still going to the gym. I'm always working on. I'm still, insulating my garage. Like this is my brain. This is my life. But I love it. I love it. Like I love projects. I love tinkering away at stuff. Like anything I can build, I do. And it's funny because like when I go to my martial arts studio, even saying it live, sometimes I don't even like to talk about my projects because it's like, I don't want people to always know all the things that
you're doing.
Yeah, or just sometimes, and the reason I don't is because if they don't work out, they're like, hey, so what happened to that? And then I'm like, it didn't work out. But you know what? For all the things that don't work out, a lot of things do work out.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, yeah, you got lucky. I didn't get lucky.
Yeah, no. I worked my fucking ass off.
An idiot who's willing to try all these things until I, figure out what works.
Well, it's funny. Everybody wants to. There's a lot of people on this planet that it's not that they necessarily just want to rib you for the failures in life, but they almost want to they never tried or took the leap. So they want to feel that,
oh, yeah.
It didn't work out, right? And it's not necessarily because they just don't like you or they're trying to be nasty to you. Yep. They're just almost seeking that comfort of like, oh, it didn't work out for them and I never tried or it didn't work out for me when I tried. So, misery loves company type of situation.
It's easier to pull people down
than lift them up.
It is because you know what? I think when someone does something that's, let's just use the words above you or whatever, it's much easier to pull them down and say, no, they cheated, they had help, blah, 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 than it is to accept the fact that they have done something that you're unwilling to do, right? And that's what it all comes down to, and it's like your willingness to do stuff.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that people get trapped into, which I really want to hit, how much time do we have?
We've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. It goes by quick, right?
Okay, no, it's cool. Yeah. So one thing that
we can end on this.
I'm in no rush.
Okay.
So one thing that I think people get really trapped into is the time versus money. I think people have a lot of trouble with this. And the reason I say that is because I had so much trouble with this. I feel like I'm just starting now. And then when I say now, I say within the last year. And Jesse Itzler is someone I'm going to have you look up because I think he's a genius, smart guy. Love listening to his stuff. But it's always the time versus money because I think people always are confused and they think that you have to invest so much time. Everything's like, I'm putting in hours. Like people, how when you were a kid, I'd be like, Nick, what time did you stay up till? Yeah. And you would be like, 2:00. And I'd be like, I stayed up till 4:00. Yeah. And in reality, we both know we were in bed at like 10:30. Yeah. Right. But you lied.
Jam's on by 9.
Yeah. And you were like, I was up till, I didn't even sleep for the last 3 days. Like, everyone's always trying to one up it. I feel like it's kind of the same thing where now people want to say, I worked 80 hours.
Yeah.
I did this. I'm hustling. I'm grinding.
Giving themselves little medals and accolades as they go.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want that. That's actually the complete opposite of what I.
Yeah. How efficient were you in those 80 hours?
Yeah, I told you I'm a big fan of Darren Hardy, and this one thing that always sticks in my mind that he says is that you came home from a crazy day, right? And your spouse or whoever you're home with goes, oh, all right, so what'd you do? I don't know. It was a crazy day. I had so many things. All right, so what'd you do? And you're like, I just ran around like a monkey. Yeah. You didn't really get anything done. Now I am, I just try to be very smart with what I do. Very time
efficient.
Time efficient. Yeah. I'm like, to me, and listen, I love my martial arts studio. I love teaching, but I'm also not willing to just work as many hours as I used to all the time and put all my hours and energy into it because it's just draining. And I'm like, I'm not proud of that anymore. I'm more proud of when I go in, I'm rested, I have fed, I teach my butt off when I teach, and then that's it. Like today's technically my day off, and like I'm working tomorrow, I'm working Thursday, and then I'm off Friday, and then I'm only going for an hour or two on Saturday. And like reason being is because I'm working on all these projects. A lot of it is mental work on my studio, which I like and stuff, but I'm not grinding out my life. Like, you know what I mean? Like what this is the
hustle culture is wild.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see because there's a lot of people in my field that do the same thing. It's like, oh, made it to $60,000 a month with retainer clients. And it's just like, okay, but you didn't breathe. You barely slept. You're miserable. And I mean, for me at my high point, I had 8 retainer clients. That's a lot for one person to juggle content needs for all these businesses and people, personalities, following up on invoices, planning.
Oh, I get it,
dude.
Man.
It's
you're running 8 businesses. You're
literally sitting there like a meme with all the hats on, just sitting there, just like in the fire, like the dog. Everything's fine, and you're pocketing all this money, but it's like
the quality.
You're cutting corners because you can't sustain that type of energy output.
It's impossible.
And that's something that I've really tried to be cognizant of as of late. I want to have a lot of money, and it's not even because I'm gluttonous to be rich. I just don't want to have to worry about like, oh, Whole Foods was $280 this week.
Yeah,
I don't want to have that feeling. And I make great money, but I still have that feeling because I'm constantly checking in with pricing and like, okay, well, this insurance is due or this business expense.
Let's hit the psychology of this.
This
is my forte.
I literally just talked to my mom this morning. We were just talking, and she's just like, I forget that every January and February, all of my annual subscriptions are like due. I go, I'm getting hammered right now. Squarespace, my royalty-free music sites, and all this stuff. God. It's like 500 here, 800 here. You're like, what? And you just start to like watch all of this money just exit.
Yeah.
I know you know Sam Schwartz. I'm very close with Sam too. Like Sam and I used to talk about it all the time. It's just like every time money comes in, it goes right back out.
Well, it's very hard for people to understand. I totally get it. My overhead is like close to $500,000.
Yep.
Not a month.
No, annually.
Like annually.
It's a lot, man. It's a big nut to swallow.
Like when you're sitting there and you're like, oh man, like that's your overhead. Yeah, that's the overhead before I put any money in my pocket.
Anything.
So yeah, I totally get that. And so I think the funny part, I'd love to just keep going back to the time and money and things like that is because I feel like it is so hard at some point to figure out like how much money do you need to start enjoying your life?
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, and I love this quote too, is that we spend the first half of our life, which is in theory some of the best years or a majority of the best years of life, to make enough money to enjoy the second half of your life, which is not necessarily the best years. And you don't know when that ends, so you might be thinking you're halfway through your life.
Yeah, everybody has the assumption you're going to live to 100, and you're not.
Yeah, when you're 6/8 through your life, and you only have 2/8 of your life yet left. So it's like anyone who's worrying about money, let's just get right at it. Let's hit it square. Anyone who's sitting there and every day they wake up and they're worried about money, the one thing I would always advise them is, you probably aren't as bad off as you think. A majority of us, have a cell phone, have a roof over our heads. We have stuff. And like, Nick, if you just all of a sudden stop making any money, I doubt, even if I said, Nick, you're not making money for the next year, doubt you'd go hungry. I really doubt it. Like you're not going to die, and the fear is really that we're so programmed to think if we don't have money, we will die.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, if I told you, all right, Nick, we're going to start right now, for 1 year, you won't make any money. I bet you'd figure it out. You would figure out for an entire year easily. Maybe I shouldn't say easily. You would figure out. Now,
No,
not
it would
to
be
say
it would be an adaptation that I'd have to get accustomed
But
to
I'm just
and
saying,
pivot.
you know, if you told me, all right, Matt, you don't get any money for the next year, go. You know, I'm sure I would start figuring it out. You know, I would start selling stuff. I would start canceling subscriptions.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I would just be like, all right, I'm going to have to start. Now, would my wife and kids be happy about it? No. But could I move in with my in-laws? Yeah, would they let me move in? Yeah, I could probably do that. You know, or not that I would want this, but could my wife and kids move in with my in-laws, and then could I sleep at my karate studio for a year? Probably wouldn't be ideal, but yeah.
You could make it happen.
But I'm just saying, like, it wouldn't die. It
Yeah.
wouldn't die. You know what I mean? I also probably wouldn't leave my wife and kids with my in-laws.
No,
I
I
wouldn't
get
let
it.
that happen either. I'm just saying that, like, a majority of times, I think we need to accept the fact that the fear of not having money, right, is not going to kill us.
It's also the fear of the unknown, though, in life in general.
No, but
People get worried about things that they don't anticipate or not planning for.
don't you know the Kung Fu Panda quote? Where
Talk
it's
to me.
like the Kung Fu Panda quote. It's if you're
Have to look it up.
worried about things, what?
As I do, I have to look it up, or you?
No, I'm
you
gonna
got it? Okay.
pull it out. I'll
Okay.
figure it out. But you know, if you're worried about things in the past, right? You can't. They're in the past, right? If you're worried about things in the future, right? You can't control the future, right? You can only be present, right? And what's next? That's it. You can't worry about things that happened. They happened. You can't worry about what could happen because you can't control it. You can only be present. I'm sure it's a lot. That's why they call it a present, because it's a gift. That's the quote.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think, and listen, I'm the same way. You know, I parked my car at a baseball field. I went out to see a friend. I went back. I got home. I realized someone dinked my car. I was mad, like really. You know, me and you both love cars. You know, I was upset.
Remember I got into the accident going to your shoot?
What?
Do you remember I got into the accident?
Oh my
going to your shoot?
God. Yeah. I had a piece of wood hit my fender on my car. I was upset. But then when you break it down, and this is me kind of reflecting inward, what am I really upset about? I'm really upset about money. A lot of times stuff happens and we're like upset, right? But like when you break it down, it's really, I'm pissed about money.
It's the root of just, you know,
It's the
having
root
to
of-
shell out the unforeseen.
Your fridge falls and breaks. You'd be upset, but you'd be upset because of the money.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you let go of the money fact, you know, and you're just like, it's okay, like whatever, you know, it's fine. You know, I'm also a big everything kind of happens for a reason kind of person.
I always try to remind myself of that, and I always do try to sit in that and really understand that it does.
Yeah. I'll do this drill in my class, which the kids really like, where I have them like team positivity and team negativity. And they actually really love it because it's like, you know, I'll give them example. You know, I was driving my car. And this is actually a true story. Hit a pothole and I cracked my wheel. I'm like, it's a bad day. They're like, yeah. And then they're like, all right, so then you'll get a new tire. I'm like, all right, I got a new tire. But I actually got new rims for my car, which, you know, you're a guy. I had a Honda Civic Type R, cracked my 20-inch wheels, got some beautiful, nice 18-inch wheels. I probably would have never done it
Hadn't
something bad happened. So, you know, again, and I know it's hard because I think a lot of people stress about money. And I get it. And I think it's also hard to be a person who doesn't stress about money and then people who are like, oh, it's because you have money. That's true. But when I was a kid, I was pretty broke and I didn't stress about money. And even when I was working my way up in my studio, I didn't pay myself for 18 months. The crazy part is I didn't stress about money, which is so crazy to me because now I look back, I'm like, what an idiot. I was like, whatever. And I think the reason being was that I just knew in my heart that like if anything went wrong, I'd figure it out. I think I stress more about money now than when I was theoretically a lot broker because of my, you know, having a family and kids.
Well, because you also know that
dependence and
well, yeah, you also
and
know
you
that the
have more.
level that it's brought you, and God forbid that it wasn't accessible to you and you didn't have the money for a while. You understand that the scale back that's required until you can get back to that status of that level.
We're back to problems, like you say. The higher you go, the further you fall.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you want a podcast with 10 million people. But then let's say you say the wrong thing and now
everyone's trying to cancel you.
Yeah, and it's like, but listen, I'm not a negative person, so let's not even say it.
Yeah.
But, I just think, listen, if you're a person who sucks, this is at the end. We should put this at the beginning. But if you're a person who stresses about money, I think one thing you have to understand is it's just your brain trying to keep you alive. That's all it is. I think a lot of times
It knows it's a resource.
It's just our brain. The reason our brain does that and stresses about money is because it believes that if we don't have money, we won't be able to barter and get food and survive. But most of us are going to be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, don't stress about money. But if it's affecting your quality of happiness, it's something you should work on. Yeah. In my book.
Yeah. always having sales jobs and then working retail. That was always a big thing for me because I always got my check every 2 weeks. And then I go off on my own to do the video stuff and no check comes in 2 weeks. And I went, huh. And then I'll never forget that feeling, man. For a couple of months there, it was weird. I was like, oh, it's just you don't get paid if you don't have jobs.
Yes.
It's just like, interesting. Like, this feels weird.
But you know what? To flip the other side, so I taught at Bustos Martial Arts in Plainview for 10 years before I did my own studio. So, I started at 15, and then 24, 25, around then I started my studio. One thing that always bothered me, and I think if this reflects to you, I think this is how you know if you're a business owner. I could be wrong, but this is what did it for me. It frustrated me that if me and you did the same job, but I did the job better, we still got very similar pay. Even if I was paid $1 or $2 more, to me, it wasn't equivalent to the amount of value I was bringing.
Yeah.
And that always frustrated me. I was like, I can't not give 100. It's just who I am. When I do something, I got to give 100 all day long. My son's the same way. It could be a silly, we're going up the stairs. He will not let me win. He's got to beat me. It's 100 all day long. That's just my house. So I feel like it's the same kind of thing where it's like, it bothered me that someone else would do the same thing and we'd get very similar pay. And I think once I realized, if I'm doing it, I want to be paid based off me. The opposite of that, like you said, it's like, you don't get paid right away. Yep. You're the last to be paid, But the upside of that is, worth it, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, it's worth it. You get to scale a lot differently and do what you want, essentially.
Let's see what we got. We did the values of coaches and mentors, taking action while you're young. I'm not sure if we hit that too much, but I'm telling you, people just got to do stuff now. You
just do shit.
I saw you last week. I said I want to be on your podcast, and here we are, a week later. You just got to do it.
Got to do shit. Just got to hang out.
Oh,
that's why I got to order all this live streaming gear after I get off.
You could be great.
Fuck the credit card stuff. I'll figure it out.
We'll talk. You should do a line of credit. There's a lot of different ways to do it, especially if you're an established business. I'm a TD Bank guy, and TD Bank will give you 20%. You don't even need collateral. 20% of your gross sales. So let's say your gross sales are $500,000. Theoretically, if you can say, I've been doing $500,000 for the last 3 years, they'll give you a $100,000 line of credit. And the great thing about the line of credit is you could theoretically put the money, you could buy your stuff on your credit card, right? You got 30 days there. Then
pay it with the line.
Then if you have any extra funds lying or whatever, you could just sink that money back into the line. So when my real estate taxes are due, they're like $20,000. Just leave my $20,000 in my HELOC account, and it's paying for that. And then when I need to pay it, I could just pull it out and pay it.
That's been the unfortunate side of my business, is that the finance side is not something that I enjoy, and it's not something that a lot of people enjoy, and it's not something that I'm good at because it's not something that I focus on because there's only so many hats you can wear.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think the big thing when you're talking about business and numbers and financing is not to overcomplicate things. I think sometimes it's very easy to make it overcomplicated, right? If you were like, hey, Matt, I'm a guy who owns a business. What would you teach me about finances in 2 minutes? Know what your overhead is, right? Not for the month, but for the year. because that's a big mistake people make. They go, oh, yeah, these are my expenses. And then, like you said, your subscriptions are due every year.
Yeah.
So you sit down for one time and you figure out what your overhead is for the entire year.
Well, ironically, I think I can cancel some subscriptions now because I figured this fucking thing out, and I've been using plugins that have cost almost $100 a month to get the sound where I need it, ironically.
So you figure out for the year, you divide it by 12, right? Then vice versa, you have to then figure out, okay, this is my overhead, right? Divided by 12. There's always unexpected expenses. That's just part of being a business owner. And then obviously what you want your gross sales to be, right? And that's really the only two numbers you need to figure out. Like
overhead and gross sales that you need to hit.
That's it. Like you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Now, I always like giving myself a little space. Like if I want to do 80K this month, I really should be aiming for 90K. And if I fall short, I hit my goal.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they aim for their goal, they fall short, and they're like, why didn't I make it? I'm like, you have to start higher. Mm-hmm. And if you want to
aim for the moon, you want to hit the stars.
Yeah, exactly.
Aim for the stars if you want to hit the moon.
Yeah, it's not that complicated. Figure out what your expenses are, figure out what your sales are, and honestly, talk about it. A lot of people get very, I don't know, maybe it was our parents' generation, they don't want to talk about money. Right, and it's like I've got exposing.
I've got twofold unfortunate. I've got my parents split up when I was 2, and money was always a battle between the two of them. So that was always a problem.
That's tough.
And it was it sucked. It sucked. It was just like that was like mom would ask me to ask dad because she didn't want to.
Man.
Yeah, and I told her that too. I was like, yeah, that was kind of fucked up.
Money's taboo, man. People don't want to talk about it.
Not that it put a bad taste in my mouth because I don't want to sound super dramatic, but it definitely didn't keep it in the highest of lights for me because it seemed as though that resource was always like a little bit of a struggle to get. It wasn't just flowing for everybody. That's essentially. And not that it's flowing for everybody, but it wasn't a conversation for a lot of families like it was for mine, where it was like, mom needs the money from dad. Dad's giving me shit. Why am I getting shit? And then you feel that between the two of them, and then that instantly or inherently gives you that feeling towards this resource.
Yeah. Well, all right. So Spencer is my accountant.
Yeah.
And he's literally like my best friend. Now listen, sometimes he tells me things about my accounts. I'm like, oh no, don't tell me. He'll kind of put me in my place on certain things. I'm like, okay, don't. And then vice versa. I'll do some things and he'll be like, all right, great. That was a great move, And I think he kind of holds me accountable for it too, to make sure like, hey, you got to know these numbers or things like that. And I think if you own a business, there's got to be someone there either holding you accountable for your numbers, or you got to just talk about it more. As weird as that is, my mentor from my martial arts studio, I talk numbers with him all the time. I have a friend who owns another martial arts studio. I went over there to pick his brain. We just talk numbers. We just talk it. And I think it's as simple as that. Like, even if it's something you're not comfortable with, you got to just get comfortable with because, at the end of the day, you're the guy figuring out who's getting paid, how much you're getting paid. I think it's really hard for business owners to always value themselves. They're always like, oh, I can't charge this much because, it's this, this, and this. But
we're used to giving the objections in our head prior to just like setting the standard too.
Yeah. I mean, think about it like this, right? If sometimes you think, okay, I need $100, right? $100 to cover whatever. Then you start taking out all the things of that $100. I got to pay this. I got to pay my insurance. I got to pay my car. I got to pay my electric. I got to pay for my equipment. I got to pay for my drinks. I got to pay for this. And then you have X amount left over. And then I say to them, well, what about retirement? And they're like, what? We're almost just thinking about this, but like other people, they get paid, right? They have their salary and then they have their pension or whatever they have there. So it's like, sometimes you have to think in those terms now that you need to make sure that you charge appropriately. I keep saying Darren Hardy, man, a million shout outs. He did this calculator I loved. If you're a business owner, you should take whatever your projected gross sales are, divide that by 2,000 hours, which is the average working. I would divide by less, but let's just keep it simple. 2,000 hours is the average amount of hours annual that people work. 50 weeks, 40 hours, 2,000, right? So I just love the idea is if let's say your business makes $1 million a year gross, which is, not an absurd amount, $1 million gross, and you divide it by 2,000, then your time is worth $500 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I love that math.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And people are like, well, how can you charge $500 an hour? And it's like, it's not that you're charging $500 an hour, but if you book, a shoot with somebody and, it's a $5,000 job.
Well, they're not. They're paying you for the shoot, the actual shooting aspect, the production, the pre-production, the post-production.
Yeah, I'm just
the gear, the ability to know how to use all the gear and bring it.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a $5,000 job. It's like that gives me 10 hours that I can work with to secure the shoot, do the shoot, produce it, and give it back, or a budget to work within it. I think sometimes people don't understand the numbers. Like a martial arts membership is like $2,100 is like the base for like a year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like the lowest.
I pay $200 a month at Sarah's.
All right, so that's a $2,400 annual revenue, right? So it's like, in order for them to pretty much do that, like if I wanted to make $10,000 or whatever in a day, I would need to figure out how do I sell 5-year and full memberships in a day, and let's say that took me 5 hours. Then I'd be making quote unquote $2,000 an hour. Silly math, but you know what I mean? Like sometimes I think that's so confusing for people. If you tell them you're worth $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour, $2,000 an hour, they can't understand it because it's not like someone's sitting there handing them $500 every hour they work.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with that. It's just the fact that if you work and you produce X amount in sales,
that's what it is.
That's what it is, and that could be so confusing for people, and they don't know that. They don't know their annual value, right? And they're just like, oh, whatever. I'll do it for $50 an hour. That's a lot of money. But your business is making $300,000 a year and you're doing it for $50 an hour. You could be paying someone $25 an hour to do it.
Yeah.
That's where you could hire people.
Yes. I got to get to more of the back end stuff.
Oh man, Nick, we're I
gotta get into the back end stuff.
All right, so let's finish on something good.
I'm gonna let you pick the finishing one.
Well, let's hit the excuses club. That was the only thing that I feel like maybe we jumped around a little bit, but I don't know. Why do you feel like a lot of people, find excuses? I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking too.
No, I mean, you're my guest, so that's I everybody hears me a lot. I mean, excuses can be twofold. It could be because they don't have the confidence that they can actually pull through on something.
Ooh, I think you hit it right there.
Or it could just be because they just don't want to do it and they're lying to themselves in the beginning. So it's like, I really want to join jiu-jitsu, but I just don't have enough time. And it's like, you do, but you just don't want to put the commitment in. You don't want to get humbled on the mats. You don't want to be a white belt.
Yeah.
Because being a white belt fucking sucks. And it's hard. It really does. Like being a blue belt sucks a lot of times. People think that you get this magical belt upgrade and now all of a sudden you're going to have all this mystical wisdom. I still get my ass kicked every day. I
learn a lot.
I dole out a few more ass kickings than I did when I was a white belt, but I still get my ass kicked. Yeah. The black belt still beat me up. And every time I roll with one of them, it's a learning experience. So there's a ton of excuses that you can do. Yeah. It's just a matter of, how bad do you want something? One of my things is always a procrastination. Mm-hmm. That's always been something that I've had to battle through. It's just like, I know I have to get XYZ done, but like, this is just a little more comfortable right now. Like instead of sending out a couple of more emails it's 5:30, 5 o'clock. It's like, instead of sending out a couple of more touch bases or putting the finishing touches on that edit, it's just like, fuck it, I'll get to it tomorrow morning and I'll just play a little Xbox and just like wind down a little bit. It's just like the procrastination is what kills me. It's a form of an excuse. It's just like, yo, it's in front of you, get it done. One of the Alex Hormozy things that I saw that I really liked was he talks about, I forget who he learned this from, but none of us are reinventing the wheel. We're all just recycling the information from others.
Correct.
So he said, as opposed to saying like end of week, like I can get this done end of week, say, no, instead I'll get it done end of day. And if there's something that you can get done end of day, think about getting it done like end of hour type of scenario. So like compartmentalizing and like bringing everything in as opposed to just dragging it out and keeping things on your plate. I think for a long time, one of the things that I battled with my business was like you have, let's say 4 clients that are your main people. You finish all the shoots, you finish all the edits for the month that you had to do for whatever they needed. And then there's a part of me that didn't want to not have something on my plate. So you stretch the length it takes to do something out because you don't want to feel like I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs like I don't have anything to do.
Yep.
You almost want to, that last edit I could finish right now, but I want to just like keep this and then for a couple more days. But then unfortunately, unforeseen circumstances as a business owner, a last minute shoot books or you have to pivot something.
Yeah.
And now the day that you plan to edit, now you have a podcast, you have a vet appointment, you have this, you have that, and you're just like, well, fuck, now I had to edit till midnight the night before to get things done.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of different variables that go into it. I think for me, an excuse can be a form of procrastination. That's one of my excuses that I make. But excuses can be seen in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people.
Yeah. You know what? You hit... Nick, man, I love how you give it, like, you literally
I have a lot.
Just so many things you hit in my brain, but you're so right. You're so right. I think one trick I learned for kind of battling excuses is to just do a tiny, tiny bit of it. Yeah, I think you've heard this maybe with, like, even with people who write books. What they'll always do is they'll leave off like half a sentence. Or let's say you were, working on putting up a piece of sheetrock and, you were too tired to really put all the screws in. You'd put in a screw halfway and leave it. And then later when you walk by and you see that screw halfway out, you're like, I got to put that in.
And then you get into that mindset of just getting things done.
It's getting started usually is the biggest thing. Getting started into it. Even with people who do martial arts, sometimes the issue is not the class. It's actually the action of getting to the class, like putting on your clothes. Yeah. That's why Atomic Habits I really love, because it basically talks about shortening all those things to make it easier to begin the habit.
More actionable.
Yeah. So like if you have an excuse to start something, like same thing, like you want to start an Amazon business. Well, start looking up how to start an Amazon business. That's like the first step. Or like, I want to sell stuff. Okay. So make an LLC. I don't know how to make an LLC. Well, go on Bloomberg and file for one. Okay. I filed for it. I might have done it wrong. Okay. The minute you get your letter that says you messed it up, and you'll
rectify the issue.
Yeah, so it's a lot of times it's just starting, and doing it. But the second point was even better: the fact that people who say they want to do stuff and then they don't do it. You're right; they just actually don't want to do it. Because I think I've had that myself before. I was looking into a franchise last year and was very interested in doing it. And I think part of it was I really wanted to build something again, but at the end of the day, I ended up not doing it. And the reason being was because I really didn't want to give up all my time again. Yep. So like, yes, did I want to do it? Absolutely. But I didn't want to give up my time, and I wasn't willing to do that. And you know what? That's my excuse or whatever. We all have them. But I think when you're trying to make massive change in your life, when you're like, I don't like the direction I'm in, or I want to fix something, or, I don't have enough confidence for it. You have to learn to just, get the excuses out of the way and get started. Just do something a little bit. I think that's one thing I actually would say I'm good at, is just starting stuff.
Well,
I'm not great at finishing.
You take the progression. You take the progression percentage just a little bit further, and then you feel better about it.
Yeah.
It's like the dishes are stacked up in the sink, and it's like I don't feel like doing it, but you empty the dishwasher, and then you're like, all right, well, it's empty now. Now I could just throw everything in there. And then you feel a little bit better about getting it. And then once it's all done, you just go, it's nice and clean now. Now I feel good.
Oh, yeah.
It was just that initial getting started pain point that you just didn't want to get past.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Nick, this was a pleasure, man.
It for sure was.
I actually just realized you have Blockbuster Video right up there. Is that from a movie?
Nah, you know what? I saw that as like the last Blockbuster just sitting there as a relic in time, and I just liked it.
That's sick.
I was like, you know what? I fucks with that.
I don't know. This is 80s babies, or are you 90s baby?
90, 91.
Oh man, I'm an 87. But like,
that's right. Best two. Best childhood, toughest adulthood so far. That's what we had. This group.
Oh man, no, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that. I'm like, that's.
I used to do a wide cam, so when people used to be able to see the wide camera, they used to see it. But like, I just have the two on us right now. But it's definitely a cool little pick, man.
Oh yeah, that's inspirational, man.
Yeah.
Hey man, thank you so much. I had a pleasure.
I appreciate.
I'm gonna listen to the whole episode.
Oh, for sure, dude. And you gotta let me know if there's different like cuts and edits that you like. Listen, plug for your karate studio where people can find you.
Sure, yeah. Oh, Bustos Martial Arts. I'm in Ronkonkoma.
And you also have another studio.
So the other one is owned by this guy named Jesse Molin, and he has one in Patchogue.
Patchogue, okay.
Yeah, so like I'm like his mentor. I'm actually going to his place today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's on one of my lists.
So everybody, if you have any interest, please definitely follow up. See my man over at his studio, and I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. A lot of gems.
A
lot of gems.
I had so much fun.
A lot of gems. We'll have to have you come back. You come back. You come hang out. We'll get more topics.
Let's go.
Then next time, by the time you come back, it'll be live streaming. So we'll do.
No, I'm expecting a camera here, right? That doesn't move.
Well, yeah. I need 4 of them. So
okay,
at $1,200 a piece, it'll be a slow
build. We'll do the financials after this. I got it.
Everybody, please like, share, subscribe, do all the things that people on YouTube and all these different content sites ask you to do. It helps me to continue sitting down with amazing people like Matt and conversing and giving you guys some gems. So on that note, I appreciate everybody for fucking with us. But for now, peace.
Later.